The next part of the recipe is not very long, so let me do this really quick. We have already done the first two blocks, the body element and the header element. We're going to add now an ID. An ID is a little bit different than the element. The element is something that's already in the CSS lingo in the language, but an ID is something that we're going to use to identify a particular element. In this case, it's going to be a section. Let me open up Visual Studio Code and take a look at the HTML file we're working with, this one here inside of week 4. And here's our section. Starts on line 12 and it goes all the way down. It's a big one, all the way to, looks like, line 45. I think that I've said before that HTML is very forgiving. In this case, it's too forgiving because section, I misspelled it on the second one. I've corrected it. I hope that your code is correct. Otherwise, make sure that section is spelled correctly. You should not have had any errors so far. I haven't had any myself, but like I said, HTML is forgiving, so I have made the change. And let's see what the recipe calls for. It says that in a hashtag container ID for the section element, there's going to be a bottom margin of 30 pixels. So margin bottom is going to be 30 pixels for that container ID in element section. That all being said, the notation saying that it's for the section element is in parentheses because once you create an ID, it's pretty much going to work anywhere in the file, anywhere in the site, actually, anywhere that uses the CSS file that we're working with. So after the last bracket, I'm going to type in a couple of spaces here, just return, and I'm going to do a hashtag and type in the container. That's the ID. Open up the curly bracket and then call for margin at the bottom, margin bottom, and make it 30 pixels. Close it off with a semicolon. I just saved it, and so I guess I can see it now if I go to my browser. I think I have it open already on my Chrome browser. I'll reload, and it's not too much of a change from what we had before. It's just going to be that whenever we work with that section, there's going to be additional spacing at the bottom. It's just something that needs to be done, and it's done now. If your CSS looks like this, just hashtag container after the header and after the body, with the margin bottom setting at 30 pixels, you should be fine. I'm going to click on the source control so that I can check mark it and save and commit, and make sure that it goes up by clicking on the contextual menu and telling it to push. It's going to the GitHub server, and it'll be up there waiting for me for whenever I want to go look at it after the next 30 seconds or so. In the meantime, like I said, I'm just checking it locally, and so far so good. The next thing we're going to do in the next block, I'm going to put it all in one video. It's going to be, we're going to do the navigation on the side. Right now we just have these little links, and when we're done, they're going to look a little bit more like this. We're going to create some buttons. We're going to give some space to the design on the left, and we'll get this menu rolling.